We are nearing the end of the first week of the Hearthstone Global Games. Already, we have kicked out quite a few teams. 6 teams have been eliminated already, and we are getting ready to eliminate 2 more before the day is out. We are now going to cover Group D, and that's, as I mentioned a moment ago, the United States, Netherlands, Chinese Taipei, and Hong Kong. What a cool group, Derek.
Very, very cool group. I'm struggling to decide which my standout team is for this group. I think, the United States is probably the standout in terms of competitive pedigree. You'd have to say, with the sheer number of strong United States Hearthstone players. Even just on the team, as we have Just Saiyan and Dog, 2 very, very strong players. But up against them in our first match of the day, the Netherlands, Thijs, almost the poster boy for Hearthstone itself at this point, is a very, very strong player. And then Hong Kong and Chinese Taipei, 2 teams that I have a lot of respect for in terms of their Hearthstone pedigree. Especially Chinese Taipei, as I've been there quite a while myself, while casting Hearthstone Grand Masters. A lovely country.
Absolutely. Of course, the home of Tom60229, one of our Hearthstone World Champions. Not a... Two champions ago? Yeah, we've had Hunter Ace and Lion since then. So, wow, it's amazing how fast Tom has gone. I still think of Pavel as a recent world champion.
I mean,
but yeah, first up,
it is 2 this year, so it's not quite
well,
so
that's
long
true.
ago, but yeah.
That's true. First up, it is going to be United States versus Netherlands, as you said. It's going to be Dog and Saiyan up against Thijs, and new to the Netherlands team, Corey Carsey. Am I saying that right? I hope so.
I think so. Yeah, I was talking to Captain Kitty, who is one of my closest Hearthstone practice partner friends, about it, and he was saying that they are, even amongst the Dutch community, a relative unknown. So it's cool to see some new talent, because for the most part it has been the big names.
Well, absolutely. I believe the Netherlands is one of the only 2 teams last year that had the exact same team as it had the year before, which was, if I remember rightly, Theo, Mitsuhide, Thijs, and Tyler. And obviously Tyler has moved to Vietnam since then, so he is ineligible for the Netherlands team. And yeah, I guess that Kari Carsey has the best performance in the tour stops amongst the other members of the Netherlands.
Good for him. Glad to see some more faces rising up through the ranks. But now that we've got that nightmare out of the way, with all the priests resurrecting their minions, warriors faffing about with Dr. Boom, we now have a good old evolved frog, delicious degenerate shaman to treat ourselves with here.
I have missed this over the course of today, Darren, I've got to say. Sometimes there's nothing like the simple things.
Very true. Very, very true. I'm kind of excited to see how the play level of the United States versus Netherlands shakes out, because obviously, like you're saying, Corey Carsey is pretty much an unknown to us as casters, whereas obviously Dog and Just Saiyan are not. They are 2 of the most famous Hearthstone players there are. But Dog has not been playing all too much in terms of standard Hearthstone, I think it's fair to say, recently. After he elected to drop out of Hearthstone Grand Masters, he has been, I think, slipping by the wayside in favour of other opportunities, other games that he wanted to play. But I get the suspicion that even with that lack of hardcore practice, he's still just one of those people that's just going to play annoyingly well no matter what.
Dog is an incredibly talented Hearthstone player, considering, as you said, how many other things he does. And Thijs, on the other side of things, we know Thijs as one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Hearthstone streamer nowadays. But yeah, also stupidly talented. He had a run of tournament results a few years ago, which is just unrivaled. And then since then, doesn't compete in anything, then heads to a playoffs and a tour stop a couple years ago, just wins them outright, or wins the qualifier outright, just gets through. Like, Thijs, when he really commits to it, is insane when it comes to competing.
Also, just scoops up an Aston Martin while he's at it as well, just because he can. But he is absolutely going to have his work cut out for him in this particular game, because Dog on the aggro shaman, finally a deck I can relate to in terms of its degeneracy and power level, has got a very, very strong starting hand here. The frog was not necessarily an auto-play on this turn, because there was Haircoin Evolve, which is an incredibly powerful play. However, I really like that he's diverted slightly from that game plan, because this will draw him 2 extra cards, minimum, with Coin and Evolve on the next turn, and also it gives him another 4-drop on the subsequent turn, which in my opinion is definitely worth delaying the power play for 1 more turn.
Makes a lot of sense to me. We are, as you've mentioned, going to be seeing a lot more of the aggression in this series. Both Shamans were shielded. Both of the priests, I believe, are combo priests. Yeah, we don't have any of that resurrection shenanigans. So, yeah, fasten those seatbelts, because this could be a quick one.
Wow.
As now it's looking like it's going to be that turn, Darek. It is the one. It's the hair. May as well play the coin, as we've got the Spirit of the Frog down. There's an Evolve ready to go. There's a second Evolve ready to go. Ooh.
So now it's really just about good planning for next turn, because no matter what he does here, it will be powerful. But he needs to consider, what am I trying to set up for on the following turn? And I think, honestly, having taken all of that into consideration, I'm perfectly happy with Voltaic Burst to overload for another point here, because he can still go for Sea Giant next turn if nothing changes, or, worst case scenario, I'm doing quotation marks here, Soul of the Murloc, which is incredibly powerful.
Well, the worst case scenario was a Doomsayer spawning there from one of the Voltaic Bursts, right?
True. Yes, that is always a consideration.
There's no mutate.
Usually.
There's no mutate in the hand to mitigate that.
I usually put that out of my head almost completely when I'm playing this deck. Like, if this is the only way I lose, absolutely you play around it, but that is not a luxury the dog has at the moment.
Yep, that's fair.
But it's not like Tice is left completely defenseless in terms of his own ability to swing things back. A Wild Pyro included in the deck is definitely quite interesting, and could just be really strong here to sweep up this mess.
Time waits for no one.
Swipe is a start. That's still quite a lot to get through, but at least the quest is completed. I guess Tice willing to take the damage this turn. From next turn onwards, things can start to happen. You know, Hidden Oasis, that's great. Heal for 12, stick a 6/6 taunt in the way. Ferocious Howl is more armor. Wraths are dealing 4 damage and cycling through the deck. So from now on, the Netherlands are in a much better position.
That's right, it's a big difference. And whether or not Tice realizes it through his play of Swipe there, he has completely denied Sea Giant on the other side of the dog's play, which is a world of difference here, because a Sea Giant could absolutely just break the back of Tice's entire game plan.
Really interesting Evolve, and I say interesting because there are some bad outcomes, but there is a mutate that could possibly be used on the Faceless or the Voodoo Doll.
I'm thinking Faceless, yeah. I want to have a 6 drop out of the 3/3, I think. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, alright. I'll see Horror, that'll do.
Obviously the Muck Hunter being far and away the juiciest of all of the options there, representing a very large amount of Damahe. But the problem on the side for Dog isn't necessarily his board presence, it's just the relative, at least, lack of damage. Like, this is a fair amount of damage as it currently stands, but as soon as Tice starts mopping some of this up, there's no Bloodlust, there's no Vicina. The actual way to kill Tice may start to drop off quite quickly.
Yeah, and the Murlocs themselves, the 1/1s, they're not going to be doing much whatsoever. So Tice and Korikasi have a reasonable amount of time here to just sort of sit back, relax, and draw their cards. That Pyromancer can clear up 1/1s very nicely as well. It's just a question of which removal needs to be played this turn, I suppose.
Time waits for no one.
So if we were to see like Pyro Wrath on the Muck Hunter, that clears off the Muck Hunter, and because he went with this play, also the Skitterer. Okay.
Well, it did deal with some of the board. I mean, bottom line is it dealt with enough. Even if there was a bloodlust,
I think this ordering was slightly incorrect. I think if they double targeted the 5-8 instead of the 4-4, they'd be left with a 4-2 on the board instead of a 5-2 now. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm pretty sure that's the way it would have shaken out. But the that is a minor point in what was a very, very complicated turn. So the major part is, even though I think there could have been a slight optimization there, what Tice has done here is put him in a situation where he's not dying to Bloodlust on the very next turn, which is a huge deal.
And now with the Hidden Oasis, Tice is able to stabilize again, pounce, can deal with the Mug Hunter.
I wonder.
Oh, even better, one of the 1-mana spells can deal with the Mug Hunter, and then pounce can finish off the 1-1. There's nice ways to stabilize here. Anubis Defender can play it at the same time. And really, there aren't many reasons for Tice to just not play all of the most powerful stuff, because Dog's hand is so small at this point. What else could he possibly throw at Tice?
Yeah, I think this is absolutely the time to start locking things down.
Time waits for no one.
It's just about how best to order it, which is the real question. Like, I mean, I can see the argument for just like pounce, then the Pyromancer, then the Feral Ferocious Howl, sorry, which would allow him to take out pretty much everything else. But this is fine as well.
Starfall, that'll come in handy at some point.
Okay. He doesn't have to tank the damage from the 5-drop, which is a big difference. So I'm fine with this play. It's again, like you said, just the important thing is clearing off as much as possible from the board. And if Tice had taken any more damage, we could be looking at just game over here, because with Lightning Bolt off the top for Dog, this is a pretty significant amount of damage. Is that 1 damage off lethal? As I count it.
Yeah. That's true.
That's
true. Yeah. Dog is astonishingly close.
What to do?
It's insane how
there's no way to squeeze out that 12 bit of damage though.
Yeah. I know, yeah, you're right. The minute differences just make all the difference in the world. Like for Tice, like ever so slightly messing up one of the previous turns and leaving 1 more damage on the board. Thankfully for him, that doesn't come back to bite him, but he's saved in a way by his play on the previous turn of keeping his health total that little bit higher.
But still, with that Hidden Oasis ready to go in the hand, Tice is able to stabilize. It's a little bit concerning, given there's 3 minions on the board and still that Bloodlust ready to go for Dog. But with Hidden Oasis and Anubis Defender and a Pounce to deal with a 1-1, Tice is fine, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to look at anything else, like if you go for Starfall this turn or if you can fit in a Nourish, but I think I agree. I want to just see the safe play of Hidden Oasis plus Anubis.
Yeah. I mean, I was expecting that play the previous turn, quite honestly.
Sure.
But now healing back up to 17 does seem kind of necessary. There it is.
Agreed, completely. And it's not good use for old David, I'll tell you that.
Time waits for no one.
Are they actually? Oh yeah, both players are good David. United States team.
There you go.
Isn't that interesting?
Okay, Sea Giant with Rush.
Yep, that is a big outcome there for Dog to be able to get a little bit of damage through and more importantly keep his board state alive. But problem is that Ty still has access to the Starfall to be able to mop up everything after this giant trades in.
Yep.
I guess the only other real consideration on this turn was whether it was just a Bloodlust right now, because Bloodlust draws Stormbringer off of the Frog, which maybe could have been used on one of the coming turns if you think like your only out is to protect Hair. But I guess it's more likely to win by them not having Starfall. It feels like a slightly more likely outcome to win the game.
Well, one of the two Starfalls gets played now, and smiles all around. Smiles from Dog and from Tice and from Corey Castle. That board goes goodbye, and that is pretty much going to be the end of game number 1 there. Mogu Fleshshaper, as strong a card as it is not going to be winning any games on its own.
It was a real close one, wasn't it? It felt like the Druid for the longest time was losing to Hair, to the Evolves, to all of the pressure early on the Dog had, even with the Frog as well. It was pretty much the dream hand outside of a Mogu, and it all just fell apart.
Now with a very stable board here, it would take a miracle from Dog to win this. Now, Lightning Storm, while okay, is not that miracle, and take the first game of this series. That was much quicker than any of the games in the last series, I'll tell you that much. But that leaves the Netherlands with their own Shaman, which is obviously a good position to be in of itself, and also their Tempo Rogue. Not a bad set of classes to have left remaining.
I will agree with you there. The Shaman feels like, as I feel like I'm saying a lot at the moment, is probably the most likely to be able to take the win here for the Netherlands, given that it is, again, the aggro Shaman, which has a couple of decent matchups, I would say, against the Shaman and the Mirror, against the Priest and the Mirror, which is fine. The Druid, as we saw on the other side, is a questionable, a close matchup. The Rogue, I feel like, may struggle for the Netherlands a little bit more, because I don't like it against the Druid. I don't really like it against the Shaman. I do like it, however, against the Priest, which is exactly what they have here.
Right, well, there you go. That has worked out for the Netherlands for sure. And not a bad start either. Ferocat with Eviscerate and Backstab ready to go. Let's see if Saiyan can get an insane start himself. Because that is one thing that the Priest can just do. It can get that blowout start and win the game as a result.
Mm-hmm. Alright, what are we working with here for this starting hand? Light Warden, Tolve, Blade Master. Okay, we got a curve. We got a curve. It's nothing truly exceptional quite yet, because you really want to be finding something like Cleric, Circle of Healing, maybe a Power Word Shield, or a Nephicet Ritualist. This looks like a good Priest hand.
Doesn't bad at all. Saiyan is missing a Northshire Cleric.
Not wrong.
That is a card that for me would turn that into a truly great Priest hand. But like you said, the curve is just fine. You know, he's got the 1, 2, 3 and the Nether set, so certainly a lot that Saiyan can be doing with this.
Really like this play as well of coin into the Tolve as well, because it curves, as we can clearly see beautifully, into the Nephicet Ritualist, and also plays around Backstab. You have an already injured minion. They can't deal with it.
If the Netherlands won that 30% to get a minion from another class there, that Underbelly Fence would just tear through the injured Tolve, but it was not supposed to be. And now, this is a difficult position, because you kind of want to kill that to make sure that it can't be healed back up. But killing that means wasting Eviscerate and also trading in the minion. That feels like a very weak play.
In the end, though, when you're met with coin into Nephicet Ritualist, all kind of alarm bells start ringing. You're wondering, okay, what is this going to be? Most likely Nephicet Ritualist, because if they had the Circle of Healing, would they have done it alongside it? Maybe. Probably. Either way, you probably just want to get rid of it. It's a little too scary.
But now, things turn around nicely for the Netherlands. Picking up the Evil Miscreant to backstab into. Now got some lackeys on the go. That is what the Rogue needs to get started.
Do we prefer the Miscreant over questing there? I thought the questing was quite strong, actually.
This question would be a 3-3.
Questing backstab.
Okay.
Or even
That's true. Priest can't deal with
just questing. Like, you could go just questing, because there was nothing to heal for the Light Warden quite yet. That's probably wrong. I'd probably rather see the backstab thrown in there as well. But like you say, outside of silence, there's nothing the priest can do to answer that.
No, there's one copy. Yeah, there's one copy of silence exactly, but that's it. That is the only thing. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe the questing would have been a better play that turn. But either way, the Miscreant ended up being a safe, good play. Right now, the Miscreant and the Kobold Lackey can deal with the Blade Master. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing the questing now. Actually, play that alongside the Lackey while clearing the board and saying, what can you do about it? Not much.
Yeah, it's either questing plus Kobold or Dagger, Kobold plus Witchy Lackey to make a 4-drop out of your Kobold Lackey. Sorry, out of your Evil Miscreant. I'm not sure what I prefer there. Yeah, I guess probably the questing is slightly better. Because the Witchy Lackey's going to have some good targets going forward, like maybe the 2-1 Bone Wraith after the initial Reborn dies. And I think I probably would have ever so slightly still preferred the questing last turn, because this line ends up being a little bit weak to... Oh no, I guess it's okay. I was going to say it ends up being a bit weak to the High Priest Amet, but with Witchy Lackey plus Underbelly Fence, it ends up being able to just about kill it with the dagger. So, all things considered, I'm okay with this line.
Cyan's hand has just sort of been reduced to nothing now. He doesn't have enough mana to utilize that Wild Pyromancer in a way that would deal with the questing adventurer. He's kind of just got a load of nothing sitting in that hand. Like, what do we even do this turn in his position?
A whole lot of nothing. I think you said it yourself.
Just pass? You gotta play a thing, I guess, so...
Yeah, just play your stuff. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's starting to look very grim, and the Pilfer starts to make it look even worse, with double Underbelly Fence able to come down now on this turn. Even Outdoor Peacekeeper is a great minion.
Oh, against the Priest, absolutely. Against the Priest that runs Innerfire, of course. Well, there you go. The fences tear through the minion. That questing adventure is now a 6-6. Cyan, your turns are numbered.
I mean, they are over. That is game. This is concede.
Yeah, no lethal for Korikasi, but it just doesn't matter because there's just no way back into this game.
If it was silence off the top, then... okay, maybe there's one more turn to draw silence. If we're being very optimistic here.
I got you, friend.
And that's what Saiyan is holding on to. He's holding on to the Pyro for silence top deck plus more arms to clear most of the board. And there it all is, tick, 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 just getting stuff on the board, realizing again, there's no mass AoE board clear available to Priest unless they're playing the somewhat unpopular version of the deck that runs the Mass Hysteria. The USA has opted to not run that list, and therefore they were dead. I apologize. They did find the silence off the top, which is the one card that gives them a sliver of a chance. And they are now alive at 1 HP.
Oh my goodness.
or 2 HP if they decide to go in a fire, but they should probably just go for the extra arms, yeah.
It really is just a slither though, right? Like, I mean...
Yep.
Just saying... Okay, so just saying needs to play Bwonsamdi, and then needs to have a couple turns in order for the Bwonsamdi to go off. I don't think that the Netherlands are ever going to give Saiyan the chance to do that.
Yeah, like, they hit the first card in the runner that they need. They now need, well, okay, I was going to say they now need the Psycho Pump into rezzing the injured Tolvir, but Sap coming off the top basically means that even that is no longer a possibility to win the game. You know, credit to Saiyan for holding on to the Pyro when he could have just played it out on turn 4 in combination with the Nephicet, because it did give him a very, very minuscule out to take the to get his way back into the game. But it's you know, you take those outs if you can.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, kudos to Saiyan for playing this out for so long. We declared this over a while back. There was still the tiniest possibility that Saiyan could make a comeback, but it's not going to happen. Well, then again.
Okay. So now if we hit Tolvir into heal, it's still just dead.
Huh.
Go on, Desert Obelisk. You deserve it.
Yeah, okay, that's the best play that I've seen from Saiyan all game as Corey, Carsey, and the Netherlands do take their second win of the series. They are sitting at 2-0. One more win to get that sweep. And honestly, Darren, we've seen many sweeps in the Hearthstone Global Games so far this weekend. We've seen a lot of reverse sweeps, funnily enough. But honestly, based on the one deck remaining for the Netherlands, the Shaman, it's not looking good for the United States, is it?
That's right. It's everything going a bit topsy-turvy here with these players. Rogue, which has so far been one of the much weaker-looking decks, just looking incredibly powerful up against the Priest there. The Combo Priest is looking absolutely dead in the water for most part of that game. And like you say, with only the Shaman left, I am very much liking Tice's chances, and Corey Carsey's, of course, to be able to take this series.
All right, well, you know the drill by now. The score is 2-0. We are going to go to a very short break, but when we come back, we will be finishing out this series, so don't go anywhere. More Hearthstone Global Games coming up. It's the USA versus the Netherlands, and the score is 2-0. The Netherlands only have one more deck to win with, and that is the Token Shaman up against the United States, who still have their Token Shaman, but they also have their Priest, which we just saw lose, and they also have their Druid deck still to win with. So a lot of work required from the United States in order to win this series.
You're not wrong, but if anything, I believe in our boys, Just Saiyan and Dog. I think Just Saiyan is one of the players whose mind works in the best way for a deck like a Combo Priest. You know, this specific style of play that is required to play this deck is very much emblematic of Just Saiyan's entire approach to Hearthstone, and I think specifically the way you have to play it in this matchup, which is very, very weird compared to what you've learned with the deck, is something he will be able to transition to very well.
Well, he's going to need to play this one very well in order to win this series out. Again, Coricace has the deck, right? The deck of the meta, the Token Shaman, and has to lose with it 3 times to lose this series, which that sounds like a difficult feat, honestly, losing with this deck 3 times, even if you wanted to. But here we go, let's get this one started.
Yeah, especially when Coricace has a gorgeous looking starting hand here. The Lick Him Keep off the mulligan, usually something I disagree with, but in this exact matchup of versus Combo Priest, sign me up, especially when you already have the Frog in your starting hand, which is one of the most important cards when you're on the coin.
Yep, Saiyan's hand is looking not too great, honestly. He's got the Tol'vir and the Beaming Sidekick, but honestly not much early game going. On the other side of things, yeah, Coricace is going to be able to explode onto the board come turn 4, or even turn 3 with the Spirit of the Frog coin. We'll see what he draws in the meantime.
Yep. So looking at Saiyan's hand here, what are we thinking he needs to turn this into something a little bit more juicy? Because at the moment it's looking slightly lackluster to me.
So, okay, Circle of Healing is a start, but he needs that with the Northshire Cleric and ideally a Wild Pyromancer, or even a Light Warden, just something to get onto that board early that can grow in power relatively fast. In the world that Coricace can't clear this Tol'vir, I guess Divine Spirit would go nicely with the Inner Fire in hand, just to turn this into a big minion that's hard to deal with. But at the moment, there's just a piece of the puzzle missing.
There really is, because in my experience playing against Shaman, the kind of hand where you just curve out and play a few minions one after the other does not win, because eventually they will either go Lick Him and kill off your minions, or Lightning Storm, or more likely Mogus, Hares, Thunderheads, Evolves, Sea Giants, all that insanity. What you need to do is make one massive minion as quick as you humanly can.
Yep.
Which honestly is kind of why I was actually expecting Inner Fire to come down on this turn. Like,
oh really?
Circle of Healing plus Beaming Sidekick plus Inner Fire. It sounds incredibly inefficient at first glance, because, like, you know, you're floating a mana, which is the cardinal sin of playing Combo Priest. But I actually think like an 8/8 taunt this early in the game, Shaman really struggles to answer.
That is true. And looking at the Netherlands' hand now, we can see there is no clear answer to an 8/8 taunt, so maybe that is something that Saiyan could have gone for. But either way, he's found his own path here, and Psychopomp doesn't have any targets at the moment. I think nothing's died for the United States. So this is problematic. We may see the 8/8 taunt now, I guess.
Yeah, and to be fair to Saiyan, there were very few things that could kill off a 2/6 on turn 3, because I don't believe that the Netherlands are running Lightning Bolt. It's definitely very unfashionable at the moment in the Shaman decks, and yes, they have cut Lightning Bolt from their version of the deck in favor of double Lightning Storm. So I guess in the majority of outcomes, they were expecting their 2/6 to live here, so I'm not opposed to the play. I just wanted to explore the possibilities of getting in that 8 damage a bit quicker.
Looks like after a lot of time to think about it, though, that is the play that the United States decide to go for. And there you go. It's kind of a Hail Mary, but it's all they've got at the moment. It's the only obvious path to success. And now it's time to find out if it's going to work. There's no clear method of removal for that 8-8 right now.
There are some pretty strong plays available to Korikasi, though. If he goes for Zap and finds... Well, he can guarantee himself a Voltaic burst, because if he misses here, he could go for the mutate and then hit it afterwards. And that allows him to play Sea Giant on this very same turn. Which is a huge deal in terms of swinging this ball back. But at the same time, maybe he wants to omit the Sea Giant on this turn in favor of a Lightning Storm, which gives him a 100% chance to clear off the 8-6 when you could factor in the 1-1 he could trade it. Okay, fair enough.
Oh, missing on the Acolyte there is a little unfortunate, but at least the 8-8 does get dealt with. 2 draws, fine, you know, it's not there anymore. And Saiyan doesn't pick up anything vital. Divine Spirit is okay, but no good on its own. I guess Psycho Pump, if it were to hit the Tolvair, could do some work, but it's just not coming together, is it?
It's not. I'm pretty sure I wanted to see a evolve there from Korikasi. I think that's quite a big oversight, because a 4-drop over a 0-3 is light years apart. And would have just been so nice to be able to help him value trade against these minions on Saiyan's side, and then potentially go for another evolve for the remaining 1 mana he'll have next turn.
I wonder. Quickly.
Saiyan obviously has the option to topsy-turvy just the 0-3 to get rid of it right now. The thinking that he's going for is basically, I think, why wouldn't they evolve there? Because he knows that a bunch of cards have been drawn off of it. He knows that the damage has already been done for the most part. So the only reason to hit it with topsy-turvy would be to deny an evolve. But now I'd be thinking, why wouldn't they just do that last turn, really?
Yeah, both of us. We've just lost our
video
feed, so production could help us out there for a second. In the meantime, we're going to be quiet because there's no point in us casting. Well, we can't see and you can. We're back.
There we go. We're back.
Thanks, production.
And to be fair to Korikasi there, I was ragging on them a little bit for not going for the evolve on the previous turn, which I think you could definitely still make the argument was the correct play, even having seen this. But one thing I didn't realize is that this allows them to get a 100% chance of hitting Voltaic Burst on this turn, which is pretty nice actually. That makes a big difference.
It does, and now with the Northshire Cleric, Saiyan has the beginnings of a strategy here. One circle has already been played, unfortunately. A circle Pyromancer Cleric is sort of the big comeback mechanic here, the way of actually drawing the cards out of the deck. But maybe there is a little glimmer of hope here for the Priest. Cleric, heal the opponent's minion to draw something. It's not ideal.
And it kind of comes back to what I was wondering about Saiyan's last turn, where he just plays on 4 mana the Psycho Pump. And I was wondering if it was worth holding off on that for a turn because of the fact that Korikasi only had 1 mana available on turn 5 due to the how heavily overloaded he was. And then the turn afterwards, we could have gone for Psycho Pump, tried to hit the 2/6 injured Tolvair, of course, and then just go for straight away a Divine Spirit on that to get it to a level that's honestly quite difficult to ever remove.
Oh boy, I just feel so bad. Pass turn. All right, hit me. Hit me with what you got.
Yeah, and I think this is absolutely the time for Korikasi to turn things up to 11. I want Hero Power, Evolve, and then probably Solar the Murloc as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. Oh,
pretty terrible.
Another. Does he now consider playing the second Evolve instead of Solar the Murlocs, or do you think that's a bit risky?
It's really just Pyro that he's weak to, so yes, I think you actually do, because, you know, having the Death Rattle as 1/1s really doesn't protect you that much against Pyro at all. I think he really didn't want to do it, but I think it was the correct play.
All right, time to go actually play some cards now. Is this Pyromancer actually enough to clear anything of relevance? That high main doesn't look like it's going anywhere.
It does not indeed. Even if silence were to be found, I think Saiyan is still going to have some big trouble with that Lion.
We're looking for a circle, Derek. Or another set. There's the silence.
Okay.
But no, there's only 2 spells. That's 2 damage to all minions at best.
Yeah, it doesn't kill the Lion.
I wonder. Not move quickly.
It's just that little bit too much to deal with. I think if he uses all his resources here, he's just going to end up dying. And if he doesn't use all his resources here, then he's just going to be overrun on board.
Yeah. I mean, again, Bronze Somdi is a card that Saiyan can draw to actually get some value, but I don't really think he's got time for that, as at some point, Korikasi is going to just put a lot of damage on the board and threaten lethal. I mean, there's Vicina. There's 2 4-mana 4/4 dragons in the hand. This turn is a little clunky for Korikasi, actually. Nothing quite fits.
Yeah, Korikasi is down to 10 health, which is pretty scary.
Well, it's not scary once you clear the board, though, is it? Against the priest that can't do anything to you with a clear board.
Yeah, it makes it so they only have to like stick one thing and then you're dead. But I think you're correct. Like it just doesn't really matter. So maybe it's Lightning Storm, Swing, and then Dragon. Because I really don't want to trade in this Hyena, this High Main, sorry.
Yeah, that's reasonable. That is reasonable.
There is little time.
Because again, you don't care how low your health is, as long as your opponent has no minions on the board. So the top priority is keeping opponent's minions off of the board. How do you do that? You keep your own minions alive.
That's a roadblock, but not much else. It turns out here, who'd have thought it, that lions are pretty powerful. Yeah, the final push here, the real all-in for Just Saiyan. Just try and stick anything onto the board for the miracle lethal on the very next turn. But I think we can clearly see, like, even just on board, Korikasi is one step away from clearing everything.
Well, the bottom line here is that the Netherlands can clear everything, and Just Saiyan has nothing in his hand. This is looking like game over to me. It did get close. Like 8 health clearly is not a nice health total to be on, but in this matchup, it's enough.
It's more than enough. You're right. So now what are we looking at? Like the obvious first step play I'm thinking is Hero Powered Giant, but I think when you consider that, like just leaving anything on the board here is probably a mistake. But how are we losing here as Korikasi? Like if you don't develop enough stuff and Bwonsamdi comes off the top, maybe then you're looking to be in a situation where you can't kill it off and you die just from damage.
Can you set up 2-turn lethal now so that even if Bwonsamdi's played, you win the next turn anyway? Not quite.
Quite, no.
There's no overload, so Vasina isn't buffing everything. Regardless, that's not Bwonsamdi. That's Netherset Ritualist, and that's not going to do all that much. It does have to be dealt with, but it is just a 2-3.
Must consider.
I think this is definitely the best line, even though it does leave him a little bit weak to Bwonsamdi. Any other line that Korikasi could have gone for, like Hero Powered Giant, I think left him dead to Circle of Healing off the top, because it would have meant not killing the Light Warden, which was too risky in my opinion.
No, you definitely had to kill the light. Like that's like the one thing Netherlands have to do is clear every minion every turn they possibly can, whilst getting closer and closer to a win condition.
Move quickly. I must consider.
Again, Saiyan just wondering, what are my outs here? What are my outs? How do I not die over the next couple of turns, and how do I win? I guess if Korikasi's hand is completely dead, and he draws Amet as the next card, maybe. You know, there's the slimmest of hopes.
Yep. Thunderhead, though, very powerful indeed. Now it looks like we've got a potential 2-turn lethal setup. Or with Sea Giant, certainly.
Yeah, very, very easily. 2-turn lethal. The miracle needs to come for Just Saiyan. That ain't it.
With 17 damage on board, that is going to be that. And the Netherlands make it through to the winners bracket here in the first match in Group D. And the United States fall short. They are going to be dropping down to the elimination bracket. And if they lose their next series, out of the Hearthstone Global Games. Would you consider this a...
Sorry, you cut off though. Did you say, would I consider it a surprise?
Yeah, would you consider that a surprise result?
I think surprise is a little bit strong. If I had to make a guess, I would say that the United States probably would come up a little bit in the lead, just because I haven't heard of Korikasi. He's a relative outlier. Obviously, Tice is one of the premier competitive Hearthstone players over its entire history. But Saiyan, it feels to me like personally, is just a little bit more on the cutting edge of competitive Hearthstone at the moment. Even though he and many others may have been playing a little bit more Battlegrounds than is strictly responsible if you want to be competing in a Hearthstone tournament.
That's fair enough. Well, would you believe it, Derek? We are but halfway through the day. 3 matches down. We've still got 3. We've still got 3 matches remaining. As we've shown in the bracket earlier on, we will not be showing the other initial match on stream. The other initial match was Chinese Taipei up against Hong Kong, in which I believe Hong Kong stood victorious. So the winners match, which is coming up next, is going to be the Netherlands up against Hong Kong. But later on, we will have the elimination match, which will be the United States up against Chinese Taipei. So you do not want to miss the conclusion of Group D. It's coming up after this.